Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today is Thursday, September 14th, 2023. The time is 4:30 p.m. and this is the Committee on Appointment Review. My name is Michelle Nakaradi-Chapkis, Chair of the committee. I'm calling the meeting to order. I would like to just make a brief announcement, please. Before the roll?
Yeah,
okay. We'll do a roll call, please.
Member Bennett. Member Betkowski.
Here.
President Katina.
Here.
Member DeMarco.
Here.
Member Dewar.
Here.
Member Filiaggi.
Here.
Member Futulis.
Here.
Member Hallam. Member Klein. Member Macy. Member Palmieri.
Here.
Member Palmasina. Member Walton. Member Pritzio.
Here.
And Chairwoman Nakaradi-Chapkis.
Here.
You have a quorum present.
All right. Members, before we get into the agenda, I just wanted to make note that today's agenda went out last week. It was posted to our website then. However, at our Tuesday regular meeting, another appointment was sent to committee and we updated the agenda and sent another one around to all members and also posted a new one. We met all the Sunshine Act requirements and do not need to amend the agenda, but I thought it was worth mentioning before we get started here this afternoon. Okay, with that said, approval of the minutes.
We don't have any.
Okay, next agenda item, 12754-23.
Approving the appointment of Michael Suley to the Board of Property Assessment Appeals and Review for a term to run through August 15, 2026, sponsored by President Katina.
Mr. Suley, welcome this afternoon. Just for everybody's information regarding this particular board, this board hears and decides all appeal hearings pursuant to the board's rules under the Allegheny County Home Rule Charter. Welcome. It's nice to have you here.
Glad to be here.
So in the process of having the conversation here today, Mr. Suley, if you could please give us a little bit of your background and experience and tell us about your interest in serving in this particular role.
Sure, and I'll keep it brief, I promise. I've had essentially two careers. One in the real estate business. I used to own my own real estate office, Suley Real Estate, in the South Hills. And I've managed for some of the premier real estate companies, Howard Hanna Real Estate, Coldwell Banker Real Estate. So I did that. In the 90s, the commissioners appointed me to the Board of Property Assessment, Appeals, and Review. That was the board that was abolished under the home rule system. So I started that. I was full-time. At that time, the Board of Property Assessment, Appeals, and Review was the oversight for the assessment office and the appeals office. And the appeals board members, 7 of us, heard all the appeals. On average, we heard maybe 9,000 appeals a year. So over a 4-year period, I heard about 6,000 appeals. I left the county after home rule came in. They created the new board, they created OPA, and people started calling me, asking me to help them with their appeals. So that for a few years. County Executive Honorado contacted me in 2004 and asked me to be a consultant to the law department regarding assessment matters. And that spawned the base year assessment system within a year. At that point, Mr. Honorado appointed me manager of the Office of Property Assessment, which I served until 2012. I was the oversight for 2 court-ordered reassessments. Those people who know me, I have a healthy discontent for the way things are. I do. We can do, all of us, all departments, all county departments can do a better job. That's what I have to do. One of my immediate goals is to follow the laws in other counties in Pennsylvania where the board members and the hearing officers are trained on an annual basis. That somehow, hopefully, that can be plugged into the budget, that everyone's on the same page in the appeals process. Another goal of mine is that appeal results end up coming in the mail within 30 to 45 days after the hearing. Hopefully that will happen. Another goal of mine is I would probably be the first board member since the beginning of home rule to hear appeals, because I've done it before. I'd like to do that. I will ask the solicitor, if I'm appointed by council, I'll ask the solicitor if I'm permitted to hear appeals. So that's basically who I am. I'm the real estate assessment guy. I'm also a real estate instructor, 40 years.
Thank you very much. And the only other question I have before I turn over to colleagues, do you have any either actual or perceived conflicts of interest in serving in this role?
Well, I do. I was a consultant in the lawsuit against Allegheny County on the common level ratio. I'm done with that. I have done some consulting to other counties. I was involved in the Beaver County reassessment lawsuit. I will not be a consultant in any shape, way, or form. I will be the board member, a public official, and I realize I'm a public figure. Even coming in, I'm a public figure. So I'm very aware of the fact that everything I say and do, who I talk to, I still believe I may have the right to come before council if there are assessment issues that come up, that I could just make recommendations. Only because I've been around so long and I've been in court on these assessment issues for 25 years. But to answer your question, I'm finished with all of the consulting business.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Madam Chair,
with-
Member Bennett has joined as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So with that, I will open it up to my colleagues who may have a question for you. Councilmember Macy, did I see your hand go up earlier, a minute ago?
No, I was just giving him the thumbs down. Oh, no. No, I've known Mr. Suley for many years, and he was my instructor when I took real estate classes. I'm very confident in his ability. I know there's maybe some, personality differences across the board, but, I don't see anything wrong with having Mike Suley join the property assessments.
Thank you. Any members on the phone who have a question or comment?
Chairwoman, this is Councilmember Dewar. I've just a quick question. I don't know if President Katina or any of the staff, I was actually just curious how the breakdown of the appointments to this board. I saw this one was from put forward by President Katina. There's another one to the same board today, put forward by the chief executive. Do we know what do we know what the breakdown is of council appointments and executive appointments to this board? They're so different across all of the different boards. So.
4 who are council and 3 by county executive.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
At the present time, there are 4 members of the present board. So I don't know what the breakdown would be. The other two.
Any other questions or comments?
Chairwoman
This is
Nakaradi
Councilman.
Chapter. Oh, go ahead, Sam.
Sorry, no, go ahead, Councilwoman.
If you don't mind, Chair, I would like to ask Mr. Suley a question.
Yes, go ahead, right ahead.
I'll be asking everybody. Thank you. Which really would be why, at this time in your career, would you like to do this, Mr. Suley? Take on this position.
A, because I want to. B, because I believe I'm qualified. I have a zeal for doing this, Councilwoman, and I want to do this. I just want to do this. It doesn't matter how old I am. I'm younger than our president. I think I'm highly qualified, and I believe I have the energy, stamina, knowledge, experience to do this.
You mean President of the United States?
Thank you.
Yes,
Great.
President,
And Ms. Chairwoman, and Mr. Suley, let me be clear that I had no issue with it. Had nothing to do with age. You are very successful and you are very enthusiastic. So it has nothing to do with whether or not you have the energy. And So I'm glad that this is something that, that you do want to undertake, because I would like to say that I've gotten to know you during my term on council, and I've been drawn to your diligence and your dedication into the area of assessment, as well as your enthusiasm. I believe your disposition, which is one that is, you're generous with your time, and as well as the information that you have. And I think you'll be a welcome addition to this board. So I think we will be the residents of Allegheny County will be the positive recipients of your energy. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember DeMarco, did you have a question or comment?
Yes, Chairwoman. I just wanted to say that I've had the opportunity to get to know Mr. Suley while working with President Katina on the committee for special reassessments, and that I think he's eminently qualified for this position, and look forward to supporting him. I think he'll do a great job.
Thank you.
Chairwoman.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to send Mr. Suley to the full council with affirmative recommendation.
Motion has been made. Is there a second? Motion has been made and
Second.
seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Suley, as you've heard, you've been affirmatively recommended to the full county council, and that meeting will be held on September the 29th? 6th, September the 26th. And then shortly after that meeting, you'll hear from Mr. Varhala.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for giving me the consideration. I won't let you down.
Thank you. Have a good evening. The next item on the agenda is 12756-23.
Approving the appointment of Timothy Mauy to the Accountability, Conduct, and Ethics Commission for a term to expire on August 15, 2028. Sponsored by Member DeMarco.
For everyone's knowledge, for this particular commission, it provides a vehicle for receipt and investigation of complaints regarding alleged unethical behavior by county officials and employees. Mr. Mauy, are you here with us this afternoon?
Yes, I am.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Mauy, can you talk to us a little bit about your experience and interest in serving on this particular role?
Yeah, I'll give you a brief background. From a professional standpoint, I spent 15 years working in the food industry. I later spent about 10 years working in the scientific arena with selling chemicals and benchtop lab equipment. And most recently, I am the president of Vericheck Technical Services and part owner. It's a company located in Bethel Park, a small business that does metal analysis, the chemical composition of metals. We sell and service instruments to the metals industry, and we do not do any business with Allegheny County nor the state of Pennsylvania. That's my kind of a summary of my professional career. I'm also involved. I've been on Bethel Park Council since sworn in January of 1996, became council president in November of 1996. And my, I'll say, political career will be coming to an end at the end of this year. I chose not to seek re-election. It was just time for me to move on. And from my civic involvement, I did spend, I believe, 7 years on the ACE Commission prior. I opted at the end of 2016 not to seek reappointment. At that time, I just had a lot of things going on and just was not able to make the time commitment. I also serve on the board of directors of the Penvest board, as well as several other groups and organizations within Bethel Park. And I guess my interest really came about at the end of the year. As I mentioned, I'll be stepping down in my role as council. I enjoyed the time I spent on the ACE Commission for those 7 years, and I have the opportunity now. I'll have a few nights a month freed up that'll give me an opportunity to get back involved in with the background experience on the ACE Commission. You know, I feel that I am very well qualified to serve another term.
Thank you, Mr. Maury. So in this particular role, would you have any either perceived or actual conflicts of interest?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I will open up the floor to my colleagues for any questions or comments that individuals may have.
You can do that.
Chairwoman
Councilmember
Chapman?
Macy. Oh, it's one moment, Mr. Chair, or I'm sorry, Councilmember DeMarco. Councilmember Macy raised his hand here in person, so
No, no problem.
I'll go to Councilmember Macy first and Councilman DeMarco second.
Mr. Maury, you know that there's quite a bit of legalese that go along with the ACE Commission, and I appeared in front of. Charges were filed against me twice, and I've appeared in front of you once. The other was dropped, but I just was curious. How do you feel about being in a group of people where we're looking at employees who may or may not have done something unethical versus people who commit crimes? And in some cases, somebody may have committed a crime, but until it comes in front of you, or the EEO, I don't know if we could make any judgments there.
I'll say from my political experience, you want to call it that, working and being involved in local government, I've had the opportunity to work with a solicitor on cases that involve personnel, potential unethical behavior, complaints about employees. And, you know, any board is made up of a variety of people. You'd like to have people with different backgrounds. As I look at the members today, you have a group of, they have a legal background. Sometimes it's good to have somebody, and I'll call it the common sense. I hope I don't offend any lawyers on the phone today. But I think it really goes back in this particular case, when you get a complaint, they cite a law or a section of the ordinance that states what they violated. So it's kind of, you work in conjunctions with your people. You have a legal advisor when it becomes critical. The ACE Commission does, that you rely on, but it really comes down to, did they break the policy of what's stated out there? And it's simple, yes or no. It's not always that simple, but it's a judgment call. But I think you need a board with different type backgrounds and common sense, as well as having some legal representation.
Well, I don't have any specifics in front of me, but I do believe that the majority of your issues, or the ACE Commission's issues, are dealing with employees. And with your background, as well as being involved as an owner and operator, I do believe that and being on borough council, I certainly believe that you have a wealth of experience dealing with people, emotions, and I guess what the rules, what's right and what's wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Macy. Next, we will go to Councilmember DeMarco.
Thank you, Chairwoman Chapkus. Mr. Maury, in answering Councilman Macy's question, you talked about, you know, some of these things coming before you. Could you help our members understand sort of like the process the ACE Commission goes through when they do investigate a complaint? And, you know, I say this because I guess where I'm going with this is because it's made up of both Democrats and Republicans. 5 members on the board, 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and, you know, each caucus is represented as far as, I guess I would say, a pick. But can you explain to the members how politics should never or doesn't come into play when you guys are weighing a complaint and investigating it?
I'll give you a little background, then I'll maybe answer your question direct, Councilman. We had a board, as I served on it, and it was 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans, and I will tell you the members I served with never did that really become an issue. We had a good group and they voted on the merit of the case. And actually I was appointed by the commission as chair for, I think 3 or 4 years as I was on it. And, you know, being in a minority party, I think we developed a mutual respect. And like I said, that the commission, never did we talk politics or did it interfere. I like to say you take the politics out of it and focus on the issue. Is it right or wrong? And that's the way you want to handle it. I cannot say, well, our rulings or filings may have been made politicized. I think the commission and the time I served, we did it for the right reason. And the process in which you go, we accept when a complaint is filed, we accept the complaint. In many cases, the complaint isn't filled out properly. It's not notarized, not using the proper form. And then once we accept it, we do what we call a preliminary inquiry to determine if there was any merit to the case. Then once that's determined, whether there is merit or not, it's either sent back and rejected or a full investigation is started. And then that's when you would start to do a little bit more of the calling in the people involved and doing a little more research on the issue at hand. But we really focused on the complaint itself. We don't let these ancillary things get involved in our decision process.
Would it be safe to say then that any complaints that you folks find, the commission finds, rises to the level of having merit, and that you then do investigate an issue of findings and any recommendations, that those findings and recommendations, by their very nature of the makeup of the commission, are bipartisan?
The short answer is yes. Any of the recommendations or findings of fact report that we generated in the time I was there were completely nonpartisan. It was, you go back and look at the reports, it was all based on factual information that was gathered during our investigation.
And then last question, Mr. Maury, if you were to be appointed to the board here, are there any recommendations of the changes you might make or things that you think should be done or should not be done?
I would say, I think it was several years ago, you have the government review committee actually did a review of the county. I believe it's every 10 years. One of the recommendations and discussions were to give the ACE Commission investigative powers on their own outside of just handling complaints. I'm going to say I don't agree with that. I think if you let the commission do their own investigations, then you could potentially get politics involved in the decision process where people may be pushed to look into things that may be more politically motivated. So I would say the structure and filing complaints and the way it's done now, I think is the way it should be. I think we need to do a better job, and I looked at the last couple years. The good thing is there haven't been many reports filed. I know in the time I was there, we did some education with during some of the human resource training. I did not do it myself, but our former chair actually met with the employees to remind them of the ACE commissions there and how it works. Also, on the property tax bills that were sent out, there was little notation to the public about the ACE commission. So I'd like to see maybe get a little more explanation or let people know it's there. The only change that I would recommend you to be made would be if we were to find an ancillary issue during investigation that we believe should be addressed. I don't want to necessarily say a full investigation should be done, but there should be a tool to add an addendum to any findings report we have of what you found or what issues may be out there. And potentially, the recommendation would go to the county executive and all the county council, and they can determine what direction they want to take. I'll give you a quick example. We had a complaint at Schumann Center that we did accept the complaint, preliminary inquiry, and during the inquiry, the case was dismissed without merit. But one of the things we found out was the part-time employees that were coming in were not required to have background checks. And then if you were hired as a full-time person, a full background check was needed. Well, you could be promoted from a part-time to a full-time, and that was still considered an employee. So a part-time person that had no background check could be hired full-time and still not have a background check. We did actually send a letter to the county executive and I believe council on this issue that we found, whether it was related or not, but the chief executive a few months later did a full review of Schumann Center. So I think if anything is going to be done, if you find an ancillary issue, it should be noted with the governing body and let them decide on how to handle it, but not do a full investigation.
Thank you, Mr. Maury. That's all for me, Chairwoman Chappius.
Thank you, Councilmember DeMarco. Any other questions or comments from council members?
Yes, ma'am.
Chairwoman.
Yeah.
Oh,
Chairwoman,
go ahead,
okay.
ma'am.
That's okay, Councilman Dewar, go ahead.
Thanks, Councilwoman. And thank you, Chairman Nakaradi-Chappius. So I am in the interesting position that Tim and I have represented each other over the past 4 years, but Tim has been my council member in Bethel Park for the time that I've lived here and grew up here. He's been the council president here for a very, very long time, and was the council member for Ward 8, the ward that I grew up in and I now reside in. And from a council perspective, I just wanted to convey to my colleagues on county council, Tim has done nothing but put forward his most ardent best effort every year he's been on Bethel Park Council. He's been a tremendous spokesperson for the municipality in the time he served as council president. Since I got elected in 2019, he's been a great partner for me on county council and being a bridge between the municipality and my efforts on county council. And that is, of course, all in spite of the fact that we come from two different political parties, which we have never really gotten in the way of our working relationship. So, I can say as someone who has had Tim represent me since, as he mentioned, 96, he has always put the best, he has always put the best, the best of what is most important for the residents of Bethel Park ahead of everything else. And that has shown me just via that, his long, extensive history here working in public service and in public office, that he is a man of upstanding character and morals. And I was excited to see his name come forward again. I actually wasn't aware when his name came up that he had served prior on the ACE Commission. Sorry, Tim, I wasn't too involved with the inner workings of county politics when I was in high school and college, but I appreciate his service before and just wanted to convey to my colleagues his deep history and dedication for the people of Bethel Park and for our ward here in Ward 8. And I had a question for Tim, given that I'm actually working on legislation regarding the ACE Commission right now, but Sam stole it. So I also want to thank Tim for his insights into, how his first term on the ACE Commission went, as I look to, tweak it a little bit before I leave office here. So Tim, thank you for your insights into that as well. And that's it. Chairwoman Nakaradi-Chappius, appreciate the time.
Thank you very much, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilmember Dewar. Councilperson Filiaggi.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Mr. Maury, also similarly, thanks for coming in front of us for the interview. And also, Sam stole all of my thunder with the questions. He is very thorough like that. But if I could just explore a little bit more what he said, it is comforting to me that you have touched on a subject about the proactive nature or reactive nature of the council. And I was glad to hear that the current nature is that you as a body would not recommend be allowing the members to go out and investigate on their own. Much like a jury in Pennsylvania, we don't let our jurors go out and do any investigation on their own. They really are. They look at the facts. They can make recommendations. They can make notes to the judge, but they're not permitted to investigate. So I was glad to hear that you wish the board to continue in that way. Do you have on the time in that vein? Thank you for drawing that out. And it appears that process is more important to you than the politics of it. Can you draw on any anecdotal information that you had, whether it was on, say, the ACE Commission in the past, or even when you were in council, your municipal position, where that investigative ability was kind of got the organization in trouble, and why it is that you think it should be avoided in the future here? Does that make sense, what I just asked?
I'll answer what I thought.
Okay.
Serving, it really comes back to making decisions when issues present themselves. We had an issue in Bethel Park, and we had a complaint. And there was one of two directions we could go. We could turn our head and walk away, or we could have it fully investigated. Since it was an internal issue, we went to an outside source to come in and do the complete valuation. We wanted to be a completely nonpartisan, you don't want to have friends, you don't want to be anybody push you in any direction. We spent
influence.
We spent several $1,000s, $7,000 I should say, to do this investigation, but it really came back to doing the right thing. And I like to say with our managers, we've had 3 or 4 in my tenure. One of my standing comments is I'm not here. One of my standing comments has been to all of them. I'm not here to be your friend. I have a job to do. You're going to say things I don't like. I'm going to say things you don't like. We need to move on. If we become friends outside of this, I'm fine with that. And if we don't, I'm fine with that too, but we got to work together. And it really goes back to, you need to separate the personalities and take everything out and focus on the issues. But it really comes down to doing the right thing and making the decision the first time. If you do it right the first time, then you don't have to go back and cover your tracks. And in the particular case where we called in the outside agency, 2 years later, we ended up getting into a lawsuit over this, or there was a lawsuit filed, and there was no really merits to what they were doing, but our case was strengthened because we did the right thing and had an outside agency come in and do a complete review. That, not that we were just trying to cover our necks, but it was the right thing to do. And that's where I think with the ACE Commission, separate the politics out of it. What is the issue? What are the concrete issues? And you make your decisions based on that. I hope I answered your question.
You sure did. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Are there any other questions or comments for Mr. Maury?
Futulis has one.
Yes, Councilmember Futulis.
Tim, I've been on council a lot longer than most people, Bob Macy and myself, and it was over 8 years ago where there seemed to be some sort of a conflict with you and Sue Means. There were she had filed 2 complaints, one against an employee, one against a council member. You failed to recuse yourself for the friendship of her. Can you tell us why you felt it was okay to make rulings when you possibly should have recused yourself?
Well, one of the things with the ACE Commission is that everything is to be confidential, but I will share with you, like members here, you all have friends on boards and commissions as you do on the ACE Commission. When the issue of Sue Means came to us, I was open with the ACE Commission and with the solicitor in my relationship with Sue, how I knew her, what my involvement was. I left it up to the balance of the commission as well as the solicitor if they felt that I should recuse myself or not. I only recall honestly one particular case, and I think the ruling we made, if you took the time to read it, was based on the facts. There wasn't it was pretty cut and dry, and there was no special favors given to anybody. And once again, I disclosed to the board and to the solicitor at the time of the board, and it was I was told by the balance of the members and the solicitor that I could participate.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Friends with Tony Johnson.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Maury?
Chairwoman, a question.
Yes.
So just a follow-up to that. Thank you for your service, your past service, Mr. Maury, by the way. My question is, do you second guess yourself about not recusing yourself, as I get the question? If you had another chance to look at it again, would you recuse yourself based upon what Councilman Futola said?
I will say this, if looking back, if I wanted to get political, I would have recused myself. If I wanted to what I consider to be do the right thing, I would continue, I would have done the same thing. My personal opinion of any of the members that were involved in that, including Sue Means, didn't interfere with my judgment. And there's 4 other members, I believe, on the board. So it wasn't like one vote either way could have swayed any vote. It was unanimous. So I think if you go back and look at the facts of the case, you know, I did what I believed was the right thing, and I would do it again.
Okay, thank you. You answered my question.
Thank you.
President
Thank you.
Katina, Chairwoman Chapkus,
Yes, Councilmember DeMarco.
President Katina, as you know, any decisions and rulings that come out that are made by the ACE Commission, a report is sent out to members of County Council. Now, I started in 2016, so I remember getting reports on these issues here, and I'm happy to sit down and share them with you if you would like to review them, as I don't believe you may have been on council at the time, so may not have received those same reports. I'm happy to do that with any member that is newer, that wasn't there at the time, but wants to see the reports that were issued to County Council from the ACE Commission at that time. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Chairwoman.
Yes, Councilmember Betkowski. Is that?
Yes.
Yes.
And I know that there's a lag over the phone. I'm really torn on this one. It's not that I doubt that Mr. Murray is qualified, and certainly, Mr. Murray, your description of your background, you know, it certainly sounds very good, and your prior experience, I think, is something that I think is valuable. But that's also kind of what I'm wrestling with. It's just been part of my own personal philosophy about a lot of public life, is that I guess I'm a halfway believer in term limits, and it's just I'm wondering whether the opportunity for this seat, not that you wouldn't be qualified for it, but since you have had the opportunity to serve in the past, whether a fresh set of eyes wouldn't also bring some benefit. And it's just kind of what I'm struggling with right now. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Betkowski. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Maury?
Chairwoman Chapkus?
Yes, Councilmember
DeMarco
DeMarco.
again. I would just like to let Councilman Betkowski know that Councilman, there was a ACE Commission member, Jesse Terisky, and Jesse was on there as part of his term, but he had to step down because he moved from Allegheny County to Westmoreland County. So Mr. Maury is doing basically the caucus here a favor by agreeing to step in to fill the remainder of his term. So this isn't a complete or full new type term, but we have an interim position that we have to fill here. And his past experience on the ACE Commission gives him the opportunity to come in and like without skipping a beat, he understands the role, he understands the process. And this would allow him to serve and wouldn't impede the ACE Commission in any of their duties, both today and moving forward. And that's one of the reasons why that I nominated him. Thank you, Mr. Chairwoman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairwoman Nakaradi Chapkus, may I add an additional comment?
Yes.
Also to address Chairman Betkowski, Councilman Betkowski's concern, I do believe that we chose, if I recall, to give Frederick Frank the job as the solicitor, and you were in favor of that, Chairman, Councilman Betkowski, because he had prior dealings with us in the county and the treasurer's office, and because he could be up and running right away for the position of solicitor. He wouldn't have to learn anything because he was ready and up and running. And I believe that Mr. Maury, as Councilman DeMarco has said, would be ready to step into this role to fill a caucus pick, and he would be ready to go day one. And I think that's of value to the commission as well as the council. Just wanted to add those comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is President Katina. Obviously, I don't think that's a similar circumstance, but I'll let it go.
Okay. Is there any more question or comment before I'd move to ask for a motion? Okay, hearing none, would someone like to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we move this nomination to the full council with a positive recommendation.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
No.
Might want to do a roll call then.
We'll do a roll call.
On the motion to affirmatively recommend, Member Bennett,
No.
Member Betkowski,
Not just the phone lag. No.
President Katina,
No.
Member DeMarco,
Yes.
Member Dewar,
Yes.
Member Filiaggi,
Yes.
Member Futulis,
I'm going to abstain. I need more information about the past.
Member Hallam, Member Klein, Member Macy,
Yes.
Member Palmieri,
No.
Member Palmasina, Member Pritzio,
No.
Member Walton, Chairwoman Nakaradi Chapkus.
I will. I will vote no.
No, 6 ayes, 4, 1 abstention. The motion fails.
So would someone like to make a different motion?
Madam Chairwoman, I'd like to make a motion that we send this particular appointment to the full council with a neutral recommendation.
Okay, motion has been made. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, why neutral? It failed. It should be negative.
It gives an opportunity to go to the full floor with all of the members present at that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we'll do a roll call on this for the neutral recommendation to go to full county council.
Member Bennett,
No.
Member Bekowski,
Yes.
Member President Katina, President Katina, Member DeMarco,
Yes.
Member Dewar,
Yes.
Member Filiaggi,
Yes.
Member Futulis,
Yes, I'll give the full council the opportunity.
Member Hallam, Member Klein, Member Macy,
Yes.
Member Palmieri,
Yes.
Member Palmasina, Member Pritzio,
Yes.
Member Walton, Chairwoman Nakaradi Chapkus.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Someone was at my door. Yeah. What the votes? What are we voting on? To send them to full council with a neutral recommendation?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Maury, as you've heard, this will be referred to the full county council with a neutral recommendation for the next county council meeting, which will be scheduled on September the 26th. And shortly after that meeting, you will hear from Mr. Varhala.
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate the opportunity to meet with everybody today.
Thank you for your time this afternoon. The next agenda item is 12757-23.
Sorry. Approving the reappointment of G. Eric French to the Allegheny County Conservation District Board for a term to be effective through December 31, 2024.
Mr. French, are you here with us this afternoon?
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. So this is a reappointment. So my first question is, can you tell us about the approximate percentage of meetings that you have attended during your term?
100. I literally probably 98%.
Okay, thank you very much. And can you talk to us a little bit about your role on the Conservation District Board and what you've been able to bring to the board over your tenure?
Sure thing. I am the chairman of the board, and I have served as chairman of the board for 2 terms. I believe it's been at least the last 6 years. So what we have done, I was appointed to the board about 12 years ago, and I don't know if anybody remembers back then, things were in a bit of a disarray with the conservation district. So it was a bit of a overhaul and a heavy lift to get the district effectively and efficiently serving the county with our permitting, which is our primary function. We are the organization that reviews all development permits in the county that affect the earth disturbances over an acre, and even under an acre. So anything that gets built or needs to get built has to be approved, reviewed. The plans have to be reviewed and approved by the Allegheny County Conservation District based on the rules and the parameters that are given to us by the DEP. And then those rules and parameters are given to the DEP by the EPA. So we are the gatekeeper, essentially, of environmental stewardship for Allegheny County. I hope I answered your question.
You did, thank you. And so your particular interest in continuing to serve on this board is, can you describe that?
Well, this is my give back to society and the environment. I am a horticulturist by formal training and a landscape contractor / site contractor for my day job. And I used to be an adjunct faculty for Penn State, Chatham University. I did some teaching at CMU, do a lot of lecturing, and that was sort of my give back. And I don't do that anymore. So this is what I do for my public service.
Thank you very much. I will now open it up to the other members of council who may have questions or comments for you. Any questions or comments for Mr. French?
Chairwoman?
Yes, Councilmember Prezio.
Yes, this is Anita. I serve on the Allegheny County Conservation District Board, and Mr. French is an awesome addition to the board, and I would like to move it with an affirmative recommendation to all of council. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thanks, guys.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
No, this is just President Katina. I would just like to say I had the pleasure of serving with Mr. French too when I was on the Conservation Board, and he was a true asset to the district. So.
No, thanks, Pat.
Okay, any further discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes, Councilmember Palmieri.
I echo those sentiments also. I know Mr. French has done a wonderful job, and I hope he stays on forever. So we're glad to have him. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Councilwoman Nacarati Chaptis, could I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Great. So I seem to be the only person who doesn't know you, Mr. French, and you do have some supporters here in our council. So it will be nice to meet you at some point. I'm Councilwoman Suzanne Filiaggi. I'm in District 2, and we have, our park in North Park, which is our gem. So I guess I'll ask a question that Ms. Nacarati Chaptis usually asks, and I didn't think I heard it, was if you think that you have any conflicts to remain on the board, or you did explain what my question was, is why would you like to continue to serve, but do you think you have any conflicts?
We are a co-permittee. My company is called Eisler Landscapes, so we are a park builder. We do a lot of green infrastructure work. We are a co-permittee, but we do not submit for permits. So, the folks actually get to regulate me too.
Okay.
And that our team has been nothing but professional. So if something's amiss when one of my projects, trust me, I hear about it.
You're right. They get you drive them harder rather than give them privileges.
Well, they know.
That's good to hear.
They know. Yeah, they know how to get a hold of me if we've got any issues. But no, there's really no particular conflict of interest per se.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and thanks for your willingness to serve.
No, thank you.
Okay,
that will be all. Thank you.
Thank you. So if there's no further discussion, a motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. French, so as you've heard, you've been affirmatively recommended to the full county council, which meets on September the 26th, and you'll hear from Mr. Varhala shortly thereafter.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time, everybody.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is 12758-23.
Approving the reappointment of Jenna R. Kramer to the Allegheny County Conservation District Board for a term to be effective through December 31, 2024, sponsored by the Chief Executive.
Ms. Kramer, are you with us this afternoon?
I am.
Thank you for joining us. So as you heard asked previously, since this is a reappointment, can you tell us about the percentage of meetings that you have been able to attend during your term?
Absolutely. I believe that I've been to approximately 90%. And then when I say that, I want to go and make sure that I check and make sure, but have only missed due to any serious conflicts that may have occurred, but always stay engaged and checking in before and after the meeting.
And can you also tell us a bit about your time served on the board and perhaps the accomplishments that have been made and what you would look forward to?
Sure. So I was appointed about 3.5 years ago and have very much enjoyed my time serving on the board and also watching the growth and successes of the Allegheny County Conservation District. Eric had mentioned many things about what we do as a district, but how it spans both regulatory and non-regulatory programs. And I feel like there have been a lot of recent successes too in the ways that ACCD has really partnered with the county in a lot of different ways, either by supporting local municipalities or advancing projects that really help the county in many different ways. Some of the things that have been exciting to see as far as the growth have just been the increase in tools and assets and data, especially with some of the GIS maps, or really thinking about green stormwater management and mapping development and how this is impacting our, our land, our environmental resources, but also clean water. And for, my work specifically, I come to this from an environmental and / built environment background. So I run a nonprofit and we think about the interaction between the built environment and the natural environment. And so there have been different synergies in that space and how that all works together.
Thank you. I'll open the floor to my colleagues. Does anybody have a question or a comment for Ms. Kramer?
This is Councilwoman Prezio.
Yes, Councilmember Prezio.
So I also have the pleasure of serving with Jenna on the Conservation Board. So she's a wonderful asset to the organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I'd like to make a
Madam
motion.
Chair, yeah, I was going to say I wanted to make a motion to send this to full council with an affirmative recommendation. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
This is Councilwoman Bennett, and I guess I'll take the opportunity to ask your question, Chairwoman Nakaradi Chapkis. Do you see any conflict in serving or continuing to serve on this board?
Thank you, Councilwoman Bennett. I almost added that to my comments, knowing that it was likely coming. I do not see a conflict in serving on the board. As I mentioned, I run and work with a nonprofit organization, and a lot of the work that I do is in our missions are aligned in many ways, and I do not feel like there are conflicts of interest with that work.
Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, a motion has been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Kramer, as you've heard, you've been affirmatively recommended to the full county council, which meets on September the 26th, 2023, and you will hear from Mr. Varhala shortly thereafter.
Thank you, Chairwoman Nakaradi Chapkis.
Thank you. Next agenda item is 12759-23.
Approving the appointment of Holly A. Douglas to the Minority Women and Disadvantaged Business Enterprise for a term to be effective through December 31, 2026, sponsored by the Chief Executive.
Thank you. So I just wanted to make note of this particular advisory committee. The county executive and county council established the Mbe Advisory Committee to recommend specific MBE goals for various types of procurement of goods or services and to monitor the county's MBE efforts on a quarterly basis. And with that said, welcome to Ms. Douglas.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and experience that you would bring to this particular role?
Sure. So I have served as an environmental and safety engineer for over 25 years, both for government, public, and private entities. I currently work for an MBE engineering firm, as well as I serve as the chair for SPEO, which is Southwestern Pennsylvania Engineering Outreach. It is a mentoring engineering entity for minority and women-owned businesses. In addition, we financially support young men and women who are interested in STEM fields and in careers in engineering.
Thank you. In this particular role, should you be appointed to the advisory committee, would you have any perceived or actual conflicts of interest?
I do not believe so. I mean, I certainly would recuse myself if there was ever a conversation around the organization that I work for, but I don't anticipate that.
Thank you. With that said, I'll open up the floor to my colleagues who may have questions or comments.
This is Councilwoman Bennett. Thank you so
Yes.
much. Thank you so much for coming before council today and virtually for my case.
Thanks for having me.
How do you see kind of morphing STEM and shifting into STEAM as the industry seems to be morphing into STEAM and kind of shifting into that as your position or serving on this board, how do you see or incorporating that into this position?
So in terms of STEAM or STEM fields,
Yes.
was that the question?
Yes.
So obviously I'm excited about that. I mean, certainly that's my background and that's my passion. As is advocating for disadvantaged businesses, I think that, in particular, this is really a path for career building. There's a lot of opportunities out there right now, but I think that, in terms of real growth and really being able to grow and challenge and kind of develop the future, I really think that STEAM is a phenomenal pathway to do that. I'm not saying that there aren't others, but certainly, this is where I live.
Thank you so much. Follow-up question, sorry. What are your goals, or where do you see the goals as for the county as far as, and I know this is like quarterly goals, so where do you see MWDBE goals for the county quarterly as a board moving forward? And as you kind of, I guess what my question is as you see reports, as like the disparities, especially for Black businesses and Black women and Black people, period. Where do you see those goals, and how do you, what do you see the key indicators being as a board as you help the county move forward and pushing the county and moving and helping to raise and push and kind of help to lift Black folks and Black businesses in the county, if that makes sense?
Sure. So, I mean, certainly what I'd be looking for is, are there meaningful participation with contracts? I'm old enough where I've been around long enough and have worked for different entities, whether on one side or the other. And I've seen where people, particularly minority businesses or disadvantaged businesses, so it's not just, minority, it's women-owned businesses as well, are included as a teaming partner, and then there's no work for them. Or the contract runs out and oops, we didn't have a chance to engage you. And so I would certainly be looking at those metrics and looking to see if there's consistent bad actors, and how that is being dealt with and how that's being addressed. Right now, particularly there's no disparity study, meaningful disparity study that's been done. And so, basically it's a recommendation for inclusion, not, a mandate. And so because of that, that lends itself to I'm going to put you on a team, but I don't necessarily need to use you. Or I'm going to load up a contract with a lot of DBE farms, recognizing that if there's a lot, let's just say there's 5 or 6 or whatever on a team, that's not necessarily a good thing, because then everyone gets 1% and that's not meaningful. So those would be the things that I would be looking for.
So I hear sustainability, the lack of sustainability in these contracts.
Right. I mean, the whole purpose of including disadvantaged businesses is to help them grow and to help them thrive. And if they don't have meaningful participation, it's burdensome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments of Ms. Hawley, or I'm sorry, Ms. Douglas?
Yes, if I could, Council Member Nakaradi-Chapkas.
Yes, Council Member Filiaggi.
Thank you. Thank you. Just to further, that was a great question by Councilwoman Bennett that I was thinking about myself, is the quarterly report. So if I could, Ms. Douglas, thank you very much for participating in this interview. And I'm newer to council and some of these boards, but it struck me about the quarterly reports and using those as a measuring tool and an accountability tool, right? To see that that things are going as planned. Do you think that those reports, how can council get more involved in that particular, looking at the reports? Do you know if we get copies of that? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to quiz you. I'm not seeing those reports, but I think they're very interesting. It would be interesting to see. Do you know if we get copies of those?
I have no idea.
Does anybody know? Okay. Have you on your time there already looked at the matrix and seen a trend, positive or negative, with those reports, and been able to use that as feedback for future contract grants, future contract grants?
Is that a question for me? Because I've not been on this board, so I'm not privy to those. Councilmember Filiaggi, this is a new appointment.
Oh, I apologize. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I thought this was a reappointment. We've had a few other ones. So, okay, then I guess my comment would then be, would you see that as these quarterly reports as a font of information that we then on council could use to support the efforts of the board?
I would, because I think that, quarterly is, gives you an indication of what is the progress on contracts. And so you can measure, what is actually happening. I get it, once a month, maybe the contract hasn't started or what have you, but I do believe that quarterly should give you a good indication as to the direction that certain contracts are going, and is a good opportunity to ask questions.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm so sorry that I was not, that I didn't realize this was a new appointment. But thank you so much for your time.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Filiaggi. Any other questions or comments of Ms. Douglas? Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion?
Yes, I would, Madam Chair. Councilman Palmer, I'd like to make a motion to send this up to council with an affirmative recommendation. Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to affirmatively recommend the appointment. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Douglas, as you've heard, you've been affirmatively recommended to the full County Council, which meets on September the 26th, 2023, and you will hear from Mr. Varhala shortly thereafter.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night. Next agenda item is 12798-23.
Approving the appointment of Michelle Payanzo to the Board of Property Assessment Appeals and Review for a term to expire on December 31, 2025, sponsored by the Chief Executive.
Is it Payanzo or Payanzo?
Payanzo.
Payanzo. Hello, good afternoon. Nice to have you here with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Could you, thank you. Can you tell us a bit about your skills and expertise that you would bring to this particular board?
Sure. I am a licensed architect in the state of Pennsylvania, and I'm also a lead green associate with the U.S. Green Building Committee. I have 22 years of experience as an architect, and I'm currently the senior project architect at TKA Architects in the city. I've been part of the Swissvale Neighbors Climate Task Force and have also helped with community organization, planning, and volunteering.
Thank you. And would you have any either perceived or actual conflicts of interest in serving in this role?
No, I would not.
With that, I'd like to open up the floor to other members of council who may have questions or comments. So hearing none, I will ask a question, Ms. Payanzo. So given your role with TKA Architects and your past experience, is this an area that you are familiar with and in terms of this particular board, or is this something that you would have to spend some time learning more about to become familiar with the process and what is in the activities of the board?
I know a little bit about the process of the board, but I definitely would have a learning curve. So this would be my first board appointment in government service. So I've long been interested in trying to get involved, and this seemed like a good opportunity for me.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from council members?
Councilman, if there's no other comments, I would like to make a motion to send to council with an affirmative recommendation.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Payanzo, as you heard, you've been affirmatively recommended to the full county council, which meets on September 26, 2023, and you will hear from Mr. Varhala shortly thereafter.
Thank you very much.
That is the last item on our agenda this afternoon, so the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you. Good night. So